Welcome to EmComm Solutions. Jake here. Today I'm going to present you with emergency communication levels. This is a tool that you could use to apply to your communications plan, whether you have one now or you're developing one. I gathered this information through some research and through personal experience. I catered it towards the average person, and if applied correctly, it should help you build a more robust communications plan. So let's get into it.
I did quite a few guys coming in from the US now, it's clear. So you, I think, dominate a lot, but anyway, I won't hold you.
So level one is routine communications. This is the preparedness phase. This is where you're most likely sitting right now as you're watching this video. The purpose is day-to-day communications during non-emergency times. Key activities during this period is going to be preparing your communications plan and performing training and drills. Don't overlook that. That's an important step to learning where your holes are in your plan. Procure and test, maintain your equipment, setting up antennas, procuring the right radios for your plan. I have other videos to talk about different types of radios and communications equipment that you could use, from everything from GRMS to mesh-tastic, mesh radios, and other less conventional communication tools. We'll talk those a little bit here towards the end as we escalate the levels. Refine your communications plans. So through those training drills, you're going to refine your plan, updating those contingency planners, updating your PACE, your primary, alternate, and contingency, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plan, and then engage community with outreach and education, right? So if you're looking, you're the lone wolf, or your family's not fully bought in, but you're looking for other people within your community, that outreach sometimes can get you those connections. You can learn from each other, you can grow and develop a more robust communications network within your local area. And the tools, of course, as I talked earlier, amateur radio, GRMS nets, mesh-tastic networks, phone trees, email, SMS, family group chats. I already talked about establishing one of those and making it a normal tool. That way it could be utilized also in those emergency situations. So moving on to level two, watch or alert, increased awareness. This is where I use weather here primarily because that's the most likely for most people's situations. Hurricane Helene obviously highlighted a lot of those. The purpose of having an emergency communications plan. And then, so monitor weather reports, news, and emergency alerts. Verify readiness of communications equipment. It'd be a good idea while you still have power and everything's still normal. Maybe double checking that all the batteries are topped off and charged, ready to go. Everything's working. Notify key personnel within your network. So if you've developed a good network, family, friends, local community members, whatever it is, kind of notifying them, hey, that you've escalated to level two. Share updates with family or team members, obviously, as things progress. Hey, we're looking like there's a potential of evacuation orders, things like that. Tools for this, of course, NOAA weather radio. A lot of handheld radios come with that option included, so you don't have to have a separate radio if you don't want to. Monitor your local, repeater nets, text alerts, and group chats, right? Moving on to level three. All right, localized incident. So this could be, something that impacts your local community. Purpose of this is coordination of communications during small-scale emergencies, right? So this is where you start enacting this level into your communications plans. So activate local communications networks. Example, mutual assistance groups, whether people within your local community, whatever that is. Dispatch resources and personnel as needed. Maybe you have, a portable repeater you could set up, those type of things. GRMS, you can get GRMS portable repeaters that maybe you don't have set up all the time because of whatever, HOA restrictions or whatever it may be, you just don't have a good place. Well, during this incident would be a good time to deploy that equipment. Relay real-time information to local emergency services or group. So if you're that hub, that communications hub, which we'll talk a little bit in the next level, you could start relaying pertinent information. You're isolated I'm going to keep using Hurricane Helene because it just gave us some great examples of how quickly people can become isolated when infrastructure collapses. So documenting communications logs for accountability. This is going to be really important at the end. At best case, try to document as much as you can, communications logs, so on and so forth. Examples, your handheld radios, your simplex frequencies, simplex repeaters, LoRa, Meshtastic nodes, cell phones, whatever's working. That's why you have a pace, right? So you can work down that list to what is available. Obviously, if cell phones are working, then you're going to keep using that most likely. All right, so escalated response. This is a regional emergency, right? Something much larger scale disaster. So coordinate communications outside your local network with support agencies or services, right? So this is where you're having to reach out for additional help, and we've seen that. So establish communications protocols that adapt to the conditions, right? So what are we using, what's working, what's not working? So adapt your communications plan, you're utilizing your pace to figure out what is actually working and start employing that method. And it may be more than one. So just you got to work with what you got, and this is where being flexible and adaptable is very key. And then relay updates between local, regional, and state level responders. This is if you're set up as a key hub, maybe within a community, you're isolated and you are the point of contact that's relaying outside to support agencies so that they're getting information from one source, not dozens of sources, and then they're trying to send, multiple orders or multiple batches of insulin to the same place because they didn't realize it was all the same requests were for the same person. So think about that. And so deploy mobile communications solutions, as we talked, repeaters and portable towers is an option. It may be simply as relocating a vehicle that has a mobile radio to a high point, somewhere in your local area that you can access so that you have better coverage, and then you just have to, man that vehicle during monitoring times, whatever you've established. Provide situational reports to your team and community. And then as tools, we talked, this is, where amateur radio really comes in and shines is, HF, VHF, and UHF, HF being that ability to get outside that local region. Satellite communicators could also be potentially used, and internet-based tools like Starlink was used in North Carolina there, WinLink and TAC servers. If you've established a TAC server and you have internet access and you have people outside your network, you could communicate with them through that, or outside your local region, right? All right, so level 5, things are getting worse here. This is a widespread emergency. And just to note, we can go from, 1 to 5, it just depends on what type of disaster situation you're dealing with. So purpose here is, this is the crisis response. So purpose here is a widespread emergency, sustained communications during long-term or large-scale crisis. So key activities, manage resources allocations via centralized communications hub. I talked about that kind of a bit earlier, but when you're having to really manage resources like power, fuel for generators and whatnot, now maybe it's better to find a hub where everyone goes there for their information. There's radios set up there, and that's where all the communications outside the local area are happening. And then you're pooling resources, basically. Ensure redundancies, backup power, and alternate frequencies. Employ necessary levels of communication security depending on, ComSec, depending on the scenario or situation. You may need to be, utilizing proper communication security. Relay critical health, safety, and logistical information. Now, obviously, with health and stuff like that, you do have to take some precautions there with HIPAA and whatnot. But obviously, if it's a full-blown emergency and you have to broadcast, what it is to get help, then that's what's necessary. Coordinate with recovery agencies, your local or non-governmental agencies, because most likely that as an individual citizen, an individual person or group, that's who you're going to be talking to. You're not going to be talking to the state emergency, operations center or a FEMA center or anything like that. You're going to be talking with those local agencies who will now talk up higher if they need help or additional resources. Examples, digital modes could be very, very useful in this. FT8, JSA call, satellite communications, sat phones, satellite communicators. That's really mainly for relaying information. Satellite also could be Starlink if you've utilized something like that or have the ability to do so. Mesh networks, and then high-powered HF as we talked before. All right, so we're going to go to 6. So this is the recovery phase. Things have come back to their new normal or whatever, and the purpose is restoring normal communications and documenting the response. This is where you're deactivating your emergency communication protocols, conducting debriefs and after action reviews. If you end up in this situation, don't skip this step. I promise you'll thank yourself in the future if you ever find yourself in this situation again, so that you can make corrections and changes to what you did before. Repair and replace damaged communications infrastructure, and then update communications plans based off the lessons learned. Examples, have a local meeting and then compile these after action reports from everyone that you're able to get to participate in this. The more participation, the better and more robust your community will be and your plans will be going forward. All right, so I hope you found this useful. If you've watched along this long, I hope you subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, check out our social media links down below, and stay tuned for more videos.